What if Brock Lesnar just walked away forever? Imagine the Beast stepping out of the ring one last time at Wrestlemania, and we never see him grace that stage again. But here's the thing: that departure might not be about age or injury. It might be about something much deeper, a man who's conquered everything WWE has to offer, standing at a crossroads where there's nothing left to prove. Welcome back to WWE Express, where we break down the storylines that matter, the decisions that haunt us, and the returns that change everything. Today, we're diving into what could be Brock Lesnar's final WrestleMania moment, the shocking return that's about to upend everything, the controversial Raw decision that's shaking the Samoan dynasty, and a phone call that is Randy Orton asking questions nobody expected. Let's talk about Brock Lesnar first, because his story at this stage of his career is absolutely fascinating from a psychological standpoint. Brock isn't like other wrestlers. He's never been driven by the same hunger that keeps most competitors going year after year. He's driven by challenge, by legacy, by the idea of being remembered as the most dominant force WWE has ever produced. When you look at his career trajectory, every major match has represented something: a conquest, a statement, a moment where he proved he belonged at the absolute pinnacle. But here's where it gets interesting. What happens when you've already conquered everyone? What happens when you've held every championship, defeated every significant challenger, and stood at the top of the mountain so many times that the view becomes ordinary? WrestleMania should be the place where Brock answers that question. Not with another victory, necessarily, but with a decision that defines what his career ultimately meant. Whether he goes out on his back in a dream match or walks out with his hand raised one final time, that moment becomes less about the match itself and more about closure, real, genuine closure for a man who's given us some of the most brutal, uncompromising performances in modern wrestling history. But let's shift gears, because something massive is about to happen. Dean Ambrose is coming back. Stop and think about what that means for the landscape of WWE right now. Dean represents unpredictability in an era where predictability has become comfortable. He's the guy who doesn't play by anybody's rules, not management's, not the fans' expectations, not even his own previous character iterations. His return isn't just about adding another name to the roster. It's about reintroducing chaos into a system that might have gotten too organized, too calculated. The psychological impact here is enormous. Who does he align with? Is he a threat to established groups, or does he slot into a faction that suddenly becomes infinitely more dangerous? The beauty of Dean's return is that it creates immediate uncertainty. Promoters have to recalculate. Other wrestlers have to adjust their positioning. Storylines have to shift. In a creative environment, that kind of disruption is invaluable because it forces evolution rather than allowing things to stagnate. We should be excited about what Dean brings back to the table, not just because of what he's capable of in the ring, but because of what his mere presence changes about the entire dynamic. Now, we need to address what happened on Raw with the Usos, because this development has serious implications for one of the most important family dynamics in wrestling. The Usos have been built as elite competitors, warriors of the highest caliber. They've main evented some of the biggest shows, carried championships with pride, and represented a level of competence and dominance that seemed almost unquestionable. But here's the thing about wrestling narratives: sometimes the most powerful stories come from unexpected loss. Losing on Raw, in that particular context, raises questions. It challenges the narrative that's been established. And that's actually storytelling gold if it's being done intentionally. Maybe this loss serves a purpose. Maybe it sets up a comeback narrative where the Usos have to claw their way back to relevance, rebuilding their legacy through struggle rather than coasting on past accomplishments. Or maybe it signals a shift in how the family operates, a recognition that dominance requires constant defense and constant evolution. The key here is understanding that this loss doesn't diminish the Usos, it potentially deepens their story if the creative direction uses it wisely to explore themes of redemption, resilience, and the cost of maintaining supremacy. And then we have Randy Orton receiving a mystery call. This is the kind of detail that gets overlooked but shouldn't be. Randy Orton is one of the most seasoned competitors in WWE, a man who's navigated every political landscape, every creative direction, and every dangerous alliance. A mystery call means someone's reaching out to him for something specific. Is it an alliance being proposed? Is it a warning? Is it an old connection being reactivated? The psychological dimension here is that Randy knows the game better than almost anyone. Whatever this call represents, it's significant enough that it needs to be addressed in storyline. And more importantly, it suggests that the people booking WWE understand that Randy's involvement in something, anything, adds credibility and intrigue. When you put a veteran like Randy in a position where he's being courted or contacted or drawn into something, it automatically raises the stakes because audiences trust Randy's instincts. They know he wouldn't be part of something beneath his consideration. All of these elements: Brock's potential farewell, Dean's return, the Usos facing adversity, Randy getting pulled into something mysterious, they're all pieces of a larger puzzle. They're all evidence of a creative direction that understands momentum, timing, and the psychology of wrestling narratives. The best wrestling stories aren't just about who wins and who loses. They're about the context surrounding those victories and defeats. They're about the relationships that form and fracture. They're about characters being pushed into corners where they have to reveal something true about themselves. Whether it's Brock deciding what his legacy means, Dean deciding where he stands in this landscape, the Usos deciding how they respond to adversity, or Randy deciding what that mystery call represents, these are the moments that matter. These are the decisions that will ripple through the next several weeks of programming and determine where WWE goes creatively. The most important thing to understand about all of this is that wrestling at its best is about human drama dressed up in athletic competition. It's about characters we care about facing genuine stakes and having to make real choices. That's what makes this moment in WWE fascinating. There are threads being pulled, narratives being challenged, and new directions being suggested. The question now becomes, how will WWE weave all of these elements together? Will they build something cohesive and meaningful, or will these storylines remain disconnected? That's the conversation we should be having. That's what makes this moment worth breaking down. If you're analyzing WWE with this kind of depth, if you're thinking about character psychology and narrative construction and the ripple effects of creative decisions, then you're exactly the kind of wrestling fan we're talking to here on WWE Express. Subscribe for more breakdowns that go beyond the surface, because great wrestling deserves more than surface level analysis. This is WWE Express.